Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. So if you ask DevOps aspirants what they don't like about DevOps, one thing that they'll tell you in common is the number of tools in this space. Now this is an undeniable fact. When you look at the DevOps landscape, there are hundreds of tools. Especially for each concept in DevOps, there are at least 4 to 5 tools solving the same problem. So for beginners, it's an overwhelming experience looking at the number of tools. But what if I tell you, you don't have to learn all these hundreds of tools? What you need to learn is just handful of tools to become a DevOps engineer in 2026. Yes, you heard it right. In this video, I'll share my recommendation. That is, if I have to become DevOps engineer in 2026, which tools I would focus on. This is a very insightful video. Make sure you watch this video till the end. Let's get started. Perfect. Let's go concept by concept, starting with operating system. So you should go with Linux operating system because 90% of workloads today run on production using Linux operating system. Which distribution of Linux? You should go with Ubuntu distribution of Linux. It is very popular. It is free. Even on your Windows laptop, you can run Ubuntu using Windows subsystem for Linux. But a lot of people ask me, Abhishek, what exactly to learn in Linux? To what extent I need to learn? Because a lot of people tell me, when it comes to Linux, you need to master it as DevOps engineers. That is true. But when you get started, focus on the fundamentals of Linux. You don't have to go to the internals of Linux. Once you get placed, you can definitely learn the internals. But during your learning phase, only focus on the fundamentals. What's part of the fundamentals? I've already explained that in our Linux Zero to Hero playlist. I'll share the link in the description. You can either go through the videos or just look at the topics that I covered in Linux Zero to Hero playlist. Now, version control system. Again, another important concept. The underlying concept that you need to learn is Git. But when it comes to tool, go with GitHub. You can also go with GitLab, but I'm trying to keep number of tools as less as possible. So I would recommend GitHub as version control system. Then scripting. During your initial stages, when you start dealing with virtual machines, when you start dealing with Git as version control system, you need basic scripting knowledge. I would recommend Shell or basically Bash. So focus on this as your scripting language. Then infrastructure as code. As DevOps engineer, you will create infrastructure for developers. You will create infrastructure for your management. There are a lot of tools here. It can be Terraform, it can be Pulumi, Crossplane. I would recommend go with Terraform. A lot of people they have questions about the open source licensing of Terraform. Let me tell you, if you are using Terraform as end users, even today, it is open source. You can use it for free. And replacing Terraform is not that easy. Crossplane, Pulumi, they are doing great. But the ecosystem that Terraform built, even in 2026, I would recommend you to go with Terraform. Once you learn Terraform, if you're interested, you can go to Pulumi, you can go to Crossplane, understand how they are solving challenges with Terraform. But for now, focus on Terraform or OpenTofu. Both of them are almost similar. Then configuration management. As DevOps engineer, you deal with multiple virtual machines. So for configuration management, go with Ansible. Again, you have options here. You can go with Puppet, you can go with Chef, but Ansible is popular choice for 2026. Now things turn interesting. We will head to most important concepts of DevOps. starting with containers. So for containers, you can go with Docker. Podman is definitely doing great, but still, when you look at the adoption of Docker is quite high with the latest features like DHI, Docker hardened images, or Docker model runner. Still, Docker is the popular choice in the market. The second popular choice for me would be Podman. Container orchestration engine, no doubt you should go with Kubernetes. In fact, if you're not learning Kubernetes in 2026, in any stream that you're in, that can be DevOps, that can be development, you will be left behind. So you should definitely master Kubernetes. One thing to be careful with Kubernetes is making significant changes. For example, the networking of Kubernetes. Previously, Ingress was the popular choice, but now you should go with Gateway API. Similarly, focus on concepts like how to run your model on Kubernetes, focus on how to basically deal with Kubernetes custom resources, custom resource definitions. Again, you can check our Kubernetes playlist. You don't have to search for any other place on the internet. Once you're done with Kubernetes, that is container orchestration, focus on package management. How do you manage the packages on Kubernetes? There are two popular options, help and customize. I would recommend both of them, not one of them. You should learn help as well as customize because although both of them look similar, they serve little different purpose. So focus on both helm as well as customize. Then it comes to CI/CD, which is major challenge because when you look at the CI/CD landscape, you have hundreds of tools. In the CI space, in the CD space, you have complete CI/CD management platforms, you have end-to-end platforms, but make it simple. Just go with GitHub Actions along with Argo CD. That's all. Use GitHub Actions for your CI, Argo CD for your CD. Other option would be use GitLab for your CI and Argo CD for your CD. I'll tell you the reason. During your interviews, you should be very good with CI/CD. If you end up learning lot of CI/CD platforms, let's say you learn GitHub Actions, you learn GitLab pipelines, you learn Argo workflows, Tecton pipelines. The problem would be when interviewer would ask you to write the syntax, you might mess it up. Each of these CI/CD platforms, they have different syntax, they operate differently, they have different plugins. So you are not trying for a CI/CD engineer position, you are trying for DevOps engineer position. So having expertise on one CI platform, one CD platform is good enough. GitHub Actions plus Argo CD. This would be your CI solution. This would be your CD solution. Now, once you are done with CI/CD, the other important concept today is observability. You would not be tested as much as SRE engineer in your interviews because for DevOps engineers, the basics of observability is good enough. In observability, you have three pillars. One is monitoring. So for monitoring, go with Prometheus. Just learn Prometheus and Grafana. For logging, you should be good with ELK stack or EFK stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana. And when it comes to tracing, focus on platforms like Jaeger and OTel, OpenTelemetry. This is the best stack because if you start going with enterprise platforms, there is Datadog, there is Dynatrace, there is Ground Cover, lot of platforms. But if you know these fundamental platforms, even in the interviews, if they ask you about Datadog or Dynatrace, you can tell them, I worked on these open source platforms and Datadog or Dynatrace, they work in the similar model. So I can explain you with respect to Prometheus or Grafana. Your interviewer will definitely be convinced. So don't go into tens of observability platforms. Just learn Prometheus and Grafana, ELK stack, Jaeger, and OpenTelemetry. Now, finally, cloud platform, right? Because end of the day, as DevOps engineer, you will be working on cloud. Just focus on one of these three popular cloud platforms: AWS, Azure, or GCP. I know the big question for you here, Abhishek. This is fine, but which services of cloud should I focus on? Now, this is the interesting part. Just break it down into three parts instead of no worrying about the cloud services on any cloud platform. I'll just take AWS as example. Focus on these services of the cloud, starting with compute services, IAM services, networking services, and storage services, right? Start with these services and then go to second set of services where you focus on container orchestration, database services, monitoring and logging. And once this is done, focus on advanced services like automation related services, focus on serverless related services, and finally focus on scalable architecture services. So when it comes to AWS, I'm saying focus on EC2 and EC2 family like EC2, EBS. IAM, focus on AWS IAM. Networking, focus on AWS VPC. Storage, focus on S3 and CloudFront. Container orchestration engine, focus on EKS, ECR, the family of containers. Databases, focus on RDS. Monitoring, focus on CloudWatch. I'm listing out all the services for you to make it easy. CloudTrail, CloudWatch. Automation, focus on services like AWS Config, focus on services like AWS CFT, Cloud Formation Template. Serverless, focus on AWS Lambda. Scalable architecture, focus on auto scaling, focus on API gateway, etc. That's it. If you learn these services, this is for AWS, equivalent services on Azure, equivalent services on GCP, you are good enough. Again, you don't have to worry. All of them are covered in our AWS Zero to Hero, Azure Zero to Hero, or GCP Zero to Hero. Anything. You can go to any of these playlists and you can learn these concepts for absolutely free of cost. One more time, I'll just repeat the concepts very quickly. So you don't have to learn endless tools in the space of DevOps. Start with operating system, focus on Linux operating system. In Linux, just focus on Ubuntu. It's very easy to install Ubuntu on your laptop. You don't even have to go to cloud. Just run WSL and run Ubuntu. Only focus on the fundamentals of Linux. Don't waste your time. You can see the fundamentals in our Linux Zero to Hero playlist. Then in the version control system, go with GitHub or GitLab, but my recommendation would be GitHub. Scripting, focus on shell scripting or bash. Infrastructure as code, focus on Terraform. Don't go with Pulumi, Crossplane or any other option because Terraform is still raiding the race for you in 2026. You might find some opportunities with Pulumi or Crossplane, but with Terraform, you will find a lot of opportunities. Configuration management, Ansible is the winner. Containers, go with Docker. Maybe you can go with Podman as well, but first choice would be Docker. Container orchestration, Kubernetes is the winner. But focus on the latest concepts of Kubernetes because they are changing them drastically. Package management, Helm or Customize. Sorry, Helm and Customize. CI/CD, for CI, I would recommend GitHub Actions. For CD, Argo CD. Observability, keep it very simple. There are tons of observability platforms in the market. For monitoring, go with Prometheus and Grafana. For logging, go with ELK stack. For distributed tracing, go with Jaeger along with OTel, Open Telemetry. And when it comes to cloud, focus on these services: the compute related services, IM related services, networking, storage, container orchestration, database, monitoring, automation, serverless, and scalability. It's up to you which cloud platform to use. All the three major cloud platforms we have covered on our channel. For GCP, we just have 4 videos left, but most of the concepts are covered. Also, one last thing, if you want me to do a video, a DevOps project with 2026 tag, something like Ultimate DevOps Project, do let me know in the comment section. I did something like that in 2023, 2024, 2025 as well. In the first week of January, I can do it if many of you are interested. So I look at the comment section. See you all in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.